Would be all set.
All set? Good evening. Welcome to Scituate Conservation Commission meeting of December 6th. On June 16th, 2021, Governor Baker signed into law an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until April 1st of 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of an open meeting law. The board further reserves the right to discuss matters which could not reasonably be anticipated at the time of the posting of this meeting notice. Should this meeting be canceled due to unforeseen circumstances, the entire agenda would be heard at the next commission meeting. So good evening to everyone. We're going to go a little bit out of order for a couple of minutes until Chairman Snow gets in. He should be here shortly. And a couple things I would tell anybody who is of interest for a couple of things that are on the agenda. 39 Arrowwood Drive has been requested a continuance. We don't know exactly when it will be continued to, probably January 10th, but we will discuss that a little later in the meeting. And also, if you're here to listen to 0 Ridge Hill Road, there's also been a request for continuance there. So we'll get a date on that later on in this meeting, but it will not be discussed tonight. So hopefully anybody who's interested in that, you're welcome to stay on and listen to everything else, but those two things will not be discussed tonight. On the rest of the agenda, are there any additions that we want to put into this meeting?
We're gonna do a little bit of enforcement discussion at
Okay.
the end of the meeting too.
You want to do it at the end or you want to do it early?
Well, we'll see if we get any downtime. Maybe we'll do it earlier.
Okay.
While we have Art Allen on the call, we might take up something. See how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the add-on of the enforcement discussions.
Okay, good. That's Penny's motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Andy.
Andy's second. All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Is there anybody else joined us yet?
Yeah, I'm here and I say yes, Brendan.
Thank you, Brendan. Good. Welcome. Good to hear you. Okay. Any other things that we want to go over a little bit out of order before we get into the actual agenda? Amy, any objection to getting right into 7 New Driftway?
No, although I'm not so
Wait a minute,
sure you
that's
have the public
I
hearing
don't.
notice.
I don't actually. I was looking
Okay.
for something that was continued.
Well, why don't I do a couple of things that I would normally do at the end? I make a motion, we accept the minutes of November 3rd and November 15th as written.
November 3rd, November 15th, Penny's motion to accept them as presented. Do I have a second or an objection?
Second, Andy.
Andy, second. In favor, Doug?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes,
Richard, yes. Okay.
Okay. The other things, I think we have to wait. Oh, do you want to discuss the minor modification, Amy, on 184 Chief Justice Cushing?
Yeah, well, the thing is that this morning we just got another change on that.
Oh,
So I don't even think that you've seen it.
No, we haven't.
So actually I was gonna table that.
okay,
and Probably recommend that it's an amendment at this point.
okay,
All right.
all right. I'll do
Noted,
that.
it's
Well, you know
tabled.
what we could get into, since we've got Art Allen on the call, we could get into one of our enforcement discussions. which
Yeah.
For
Let's-
one of our
Yeah.
new notices of intent, which is up for the next meeting.
What's that?
7 Dunbar.
Oh, Yeah.
I have
But
no,
I don't know, do you want Frank here for that, though? You probably do.
I think that would be best.
Yeah, I do too. So,
we
well,
had
we
them
could-
in a lot.
I don't know if we want to do it or not. What do we have that's basically been continued that we could pick up, and I don't.
Is
Oh, no,
something simple?
Ridge Hill is continuing. Bayberry, we ought to hold on.
No. You could do, let's do Ridge Hill because it's continued from 11:15. Let's go to Ridge Hill. Good idea. Which is Greg Morse and he's on the line.
Yeah,
And-
but that's gonna be continued, it says. 0 Ridge Hill continued.
I mean, not Ridge Hill, I'm
Pondview.
109 Elm is what I was thinking, but we haven't opened that yet.
That has not been opened. That's correct.
Well, we can
Um,
announce the continuance to 39.
What about 208
Arrowwood.
Chief Justice? That says continued.
Did we open
208?
that?
Oh, that it's been since. Yeah, we didn't do anything. I think we just opened it. I don't even think we discussed it. They asked for a continuance right away.
However,
Okay. We could, or we could go to Lot 1 Bayberry.
I'm open to any of those that can work, just to keep things moving along.
Okay, let's first go back to 39 Arrowwood. I make a motion to continue that to January 10th.
Good idea, Penny. Motion to continue till January 10th. Do I have a second?
Second, Doug.
Doug, second. Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Richard, yes. Okay.
Jen's here too.
And Jen, you could take over. You're the boss.
Oh my, or
Yeah,
you can keep going.
I'm just
But
gonna do
anyway,
one
no,
more
no, let's,
continuance.
hold on one second, please. So we've moved, we've continued 39 Arrowwood to January 10th. Do you want to go ahead and make a motion to continue 0 Ridge Hill Road, and then Jen, you can take over?
Yep. I make a motion, we continue 0 Ridge Hill to win. Amy, when do they
January
want to go?
22nd,
I'm sorry?
Jan 22.
Okay, to January 22nd.
January
That's
22nd.
Ridge Hill.
All right. Motion by Penny. Do I have a second?
Second, Andy.
Andy, all in favor? Doug,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Brendan?
Yes.
Richard, yes. Okay, honestly, Jen, now, as far as I'm concerned, you really can take over.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna I think we reopen Lot 1 Bayberry at this point.
For
If we
discussion.
can just pull up the Lot 1 Bayberry plan, I'm gonna ask Greg Morse to get on. Oh,
Is he on?
he is, so,
I got to be quiet. Jen, have fun. I'm happy to help if you need me.
Yeah, I might need some supports. I have no notes in front of me. Didn't know.
all right, Greg's ready.
Okay, do we need to say anything about what
No,
we're
this
discussing?
is continued.
Okay,
So Greg would normally bring us right up to speed.
yeah. So Greg, do you want to bring us up to speed on Lot 1 Bayberry?
Absolutely. Good evening. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant, John Barron. This is a continued notice of intent public hearing for property at 14 Bayberry Road. Last time I was before the commission, I presented the project, which the property at 14 Bayberry Road, as you likely recall, is being subdivided into 2 separate lots, this being Lot 1. On Lot 1, we were proposing to take the existing home at number 14 Bayberry and relocate it onto this lot. You can see its location depicted centrally on the property. The resource areas that we were dealing with Salt Marsh, which is on the opposite side of street on Bayberry. The 100-foot buffer zone encroaches onto the top corner of this lot. That's the line that's shown in green. We were also dealing with land subject to coastal storm flowage, FEMA floodplain, I believe at elevation 15, which encompasses almost the entirety of the lot. You had put this plan out for peer review with Art Allen of Ecotech. There were a couple of comments that were made with respect to retaining walls that we had proposed at the last hearing. Since that last hearing, we've removed all retaining walls on this property at your request. We also added dry well systems to handle all of the roof runoff, again, at your request. I believe Mr. Allen, if he's on the phone, would agree that we've delineated the wetland resource areas here, and we appropriately have the building elevated above the floodplain as required by the bylaw. DEP had no comments on this. I believe this should be ready to close if there are no outstanding comments from the commission. I turn it over to you.
Amy, do you want to see if Art has any comments, or do you want to give us an update?
Yeah, no, I'll unmute Art and see if you.
Okay.
chime in. That'll be great.
Hi, Art Allen from Ecotech, peer review consultant for the commission. Yeah, as noted, I agree with Greg. He is correct. I met with Amy out on the site. I did some soil sampling, confirmed the wetland delineation. Basically, the wetlands off property and just projects a buffer zone into the corner. The wetland is a salt marsh across the street behind the lot across the street. So pretty straightforward from my perspective. Thank you.
Not million.
Amy,
Do you have any updates, or do you want to, before we go around to each of
Well,
the members?
yeah, so anyways, actually the one thing about taking these out of order is, people stop into the office and we have, conversations before the meeting, whatever. And there wasn't a butter that came in. There were a few abutters on these two projects. Today, somebody was asking about applicability of the stormwater bylaw and concerned about increased water in Bayberry as a result of the impacts of both of these lots. And I know that, like we talked about this previously, and Greg, had given us stormwater as the total of lots 1 and 2 together. Just wondering what it would be if they were looked at individually, just to make sure that we're not triggering that threshold. And I've put it out to the building commissioner, just as, to see what their thoughts are in this, and I haven't had a response yet. So that's just something to think about, and whether or not this, you might want to see that information as well.
So you're seeing that there might be potential stormwater implications on lot 1 and 2?
Right, if you look at them individually,
yeah.
as opposed to as the aggregate sum.
Well, and they're individual filings, so theoretically, shouldn't we have to look at them individually from a stormwater perspective?
Well, it would be interesting information to make sure that doesn't trigger it in that respect. Really, I think that the goal is that you don't want to have increased impact into this road as a result of, this.
Okay.
So
Sorry,
we did,
go
we
ahead.
did look at the stormwater bylaw applicability, and we don't trigger any of the thresholds with this project. The stormwater bylaw is very specific that if you have a property that is being divided into multiple properties or part of a bigger project, you're supposed to look at the project as a whole, which is what we've done here. And as a whole, when you look at lots 1 and 2, we're not disturbing more than 15,000 square feet of land. We're not increasing the impervious land area by more than 25%. We're not disturbing any slopes of 4 to 1, and we're not proposing a land use with higher potential for pollutant loads. This project is not subject to the stormwater bylaw. I've provided that on the plans. I don't know what more I can add, I was asked by the agent to provide impervious areas, which we had done previously. I didn't think this was going to be raised as an issue tonight. I don't see that the bylaw is applicable in any way to this property or lot 2.
Okay.
Okay, well, maybe Amy, do you have anything you want to say, or you want to go around to the members?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. If it turns out that the building commissioner has a different opinion, since he is the zoning enforcement officer, then it may have to come back to you. So, I mean, that would be a risk that the applicant would take.
It's a risk that the applicant would be willing to take. Again, we don't believe that it's applicable. And even if it were applicable, we've essentially designed this site so that it would comply with the requirements. This would be considered land subject to coastal storm flowage. So there'd be no requirement to comply with the rates and the volumes of runoff. Really, the only applicable standard in this case would be recharge of the groundwater, which is what we're doing with the roof dry well system anyways. So we'd like to move forward. We can certainly reach out to the zoning enforcement officer for his interpretation, but again, it wasn't applied for because it is not required here.
Okay, Penny, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, my thought was, and this was at the end of the last meeting, I don't know if Greg heard it or not. It might have been after the meeting, but I personally, because there is great concern of the people that live across the street on Bayberry, I would like at the edge of the roadway for plantings to be put in, whether it's Rosa Bagosa or something, just because there is the different levels, elevation, the difference in elevation from the top of the land down towards the road. And I thought it would be a very good idea to put a few rows of Rosa Bagosa along the roadway to help catch some of that water. Because he said that there's already during storms and during the winter that there's water down there. So I'd really like to see on lot 1 and 2 on that curve there and along the way to see some plantings put in, you know, to catch some of the water. That's my
Okay.
only comment.
All right, Doug.
I don't really have a comment. I guess a question for Greg, kind of regarding Penny's comment. Did you do a pre and post? You know, and like, can you quantify that the recharge systems are capturing all the water on the roof? I'm trying to remember what was on this site before. I mean, did you do a pre and post analysis at all? And could you make a statement to that?
Sure. We didn't do a pre versus post drainage analysis or drainage report. Right now, the roof that's on the existing house just discharges onto the ground surface. There's zero
That's
recharge there.
Right. That's what I
with
was
this-
expecting.
With this, we are collecting the entire roof area and putting it into 2 dry well systems, one behind the house and one in front of the house. We do quantify on the plans the impervious land coverages. We do have that on the plan. With regards to plantings, we did hear the concern at the last meeting about drainage onto Bayberry, and I think you'll see on lot 2, we incorporated some additional drainage features right along the edge of Bayberry at that real low area, which is subject to a little bit of ponding along the edge of the road. On this lot here, lot 1, though, it's really not subject to that same drainage issue. I'm sure we would have no problems, though, if the commission wanted to include a condition of planting a row or 2 of Rosa rugosa along that northern property corner there. We would certainly be able to do that, maybe as much as 1,000 square feet of planting.
I think it would make the people across the street feel a little better because the land definitely slopes down towards the road. And I understand you're gonna catch everything from the roof, which is fabulous. But it, might just be a very nice gesture to do to make them feel a little better that you're doing everything possible to keep the road as dry as possible. Okay, that's just my feeling. Thank you.
Good, that covers
Alright.
me too.
Okay. Brendan,
I actually don't have any additional comments.
okay. We're flying right along. Andy, what about you?
My questions have been covered. I'm good.
And I see Frank has shown up. Frank, do you have any questions?
Sorry for the late entry here. I missed the first part of it, but I think I'm good. It sounds like we're just waiting for some input from the building inspector. I think Penny's comments on plantings as some, I want to call it mitigation or a buffer are good requests. And I don't see any reason to add anything else. Thanks.
Okay. Richard, what about you?
No, it's been covered pretty much, and as long as the client and Greg are good with taking the risk, I don't have anything else to add. The risk on the report of the building commissioner.
Right. In regards to the stormwater.
Right.
Yeah.
I see
Okay.
a hand up, Jen.
Oh, yep.
Carrie Delahunt.
Can we get Carrie unmuted?
Yes. All right, I'm gonna do that.
It takes a village. Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right.
Hi, this is actually Stephen Delahunt. And I'm
Hi,
sorry, I didn't catch the whole discussion.
Before
and-
you go on, Steve, do you mind telling
Oh.
us your name and full address?
Yeah, Stephen Delahunt, and it's 25 Bayberry Road. 35 Bayberry Road. But anyway,
Are you sure?
yeah, I know. If you ask me again, I might give you a different answer, but yes. But again, we just want to reiterate the fact that there is water on that road 80% of the time. It's not from the marsh. It's coming from the runoff from Buttonwood and from the other houses or properties on the other side of Bayberry Road. So anything that can be done to help would be very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Do we have any, if there's any abutters or people who have questions, now would be the time to use the hand raise feature on your phone or on the Zoom.
Why don't we go to lot 2, Bayberry, because I think your conclusion is gonna be the same on both.
Okay.
But they'll both get their own orders, won't they, Amy? So
They
we should-
will, yes.
So we
yes.
probably should just close this and move on.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion to close lot 1, Bayberry.
I'll second it with the addition of the conditions on Rosa Ragosa. And I think a note needs to be made that the client and engineer are both willing to take a chance at the building commissioner's response.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So we have a second from Richard with conditions. Penny. Oh, Penny made the motion. Doug.
That's all right. Yes, I'm
Yes.
for it.
Andy.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Did
There
you
we
get
go.
that?
What about you, Jen?
Oh, Jen. Yes.
There you go.
Isn't this fun? Who's having
Yeah,
fun?
it is.
I'm having fun.
Okay,
right.
put that too.
Frank, do you want me to do lot 2 or are you ready?
Yeah, why don't you finish up with that one and then I'll jump in after
Okay.
that.
Okay, Greg, do you want to give us an update on lot 2?
Sure. Again, Gregory Morse, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner, John Barron. This is a similar notice of intent to Lot 1. This is construction of a new single-family home on Lot 2, Bayberry Road. This property here was previously subdivided out of the home that was at number 14 Bayberry. This would be construction of a new home, which you can see located on the lot. Access would be over Bayberry Road with a proposed driveway coming up to a side entry garage. We've located a septic system on the side yard of the house and utility services to Bayberry Road. You would put this plan out to Art Allen of Ecotech for environmental review after our notice of intent application. Again, the resource areas at this site would be the 100-foot buffer zone to a salt marsh, which is on the opposite side of Bayberry Road. The 100-foot buffer is the green line, which clips the front northwest corner of this lot. And then the remainder of the lot is largely in land subject to coastal storm flowage at FEMA elevation 15. The proposed home, we've proposed it equipped with flood vents with a first floor elevation of 16.5. So it provides 1.5 feet of freeboard, which is in compliance with your regulations and FEMA's requirements. At the first public hearing, there were comments made with respect to proposed landscape retaining walls, which we had proposed. We have since removed those retaining walls at all of their locations. Secondly, there was a request that we add roof drainage dry wells, which we've done. There were 2 systems proposed, one in the backyard and one in the front yard, which would handle all of the roof gutter systems. And then lastly, there was a comment regarding drainage along Bayberry Road, and what we had proposed was along the entire frontage of this property. You'll see that there's a crushed stone trench, which would promote infiltration of any water that's sitting along the edge of Bayberry Road into the soils underneath it. DEP had no comments on this. I believe Mr. Allen is still on and would concur with the wetland delineations on the site. Turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Greg. Art, do you have any comments that you want to add for this? He's shaking his head no. Okay, we'll go to Amy.
Yeah, I mean, my comments are same as for lot 1. So no need to repeat.
Okay. So just for posterity, it's the concern that perhaps stormwater might have an implication.
Correct.
All right. And now to the members. How about we start with Brendan? He's laughing. I got him.
Yeah, you did. I was hoping that it wouldn't be me. Nothing is coming to mind right now for me. I'm good.
Okay. Richard.
Nothing new that we haven't talked about on lot 1. It would be all applicable on lot 2 as well.
When you say all applicable, are you referring to plantings? as well,
Plantings
or-
and the understanding that they're at risk with the building commissioners feedback.
Okay.
Yep.
Penny?
Nope, I just think it would be nice. I love that they have the trench there, but I think it would be nice to do the rose bagoza right around in front of there, just to give a little extra for the neighbors. Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
Nothing to add on this one.
Okay. And Frank?
No, I think it's the same. I think Penny's thoughts again, if we could see some planting at some location here would be helpful. I forgot to ask from the last meeting, are they removing any trees of any significance or anything, Greg, in order to do this project?
No, both lots are predominantly cleared and maintained as lawn area essentially
Yeah.
at this point.
So Amy, just a question on going back to the building inspector. So if they determine that this needs stormwater, this is something that they'll have to file for independently now, as opposed to doing it along with the NOI?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think
But
that's
Greg
it.
won't- Yeah. Okay.
All right, do we have any abutters or people in the audience who have
Did-
comments?
Did Doug jump in on this?
You did.
No, I didn't actually.
Oh my
I-
gosh, I'm fired. Doug,
No,
what are your comments?
I have the benefit of a cheat sheet here, Jen. We need to make
I
sure you
don't.
get one. I know.
Yeah.
You're doing really well without much.
I was so excited. I wasn't going to get called on. Just like it's just like third grade all over again for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
no.
I don't have any comments at all. I just want to make sure that the commission's aware when you start talking about plantings that they have to be, cautious of. There's a septic system there and that trench drain. They're going to have to, whatever they are able to come up with for plantings, if they're willing to do so, is going to have to be, carefully placed so not to interfere with the structures that they have proposed out there up front with the because I see the septic system with it looks like there's a membrane going around that and then the slope. I don't, so Greg knows that very well himself, so I'm not micromanaging where those go, but I see sewer tie-ins, water lines, like there's just a lot of stuff going on there. So I don't want the commission to think that they're going to drive by and see this wall of plantings along the front there that they might not actually be able to do
Mhm.
on the lot. I'm not expecting they're going to plant something in Bayberry
Right.
unless they felt like it.
In the
That's all.
road?
It does look like we have a hand raised, 78198325330.
I'm gonna unmute that. Raise.
Remember?
Yeah.
Have you been unmuted? Are you there? Oh, yep.
Hi, thank you. This is Joe Joyce at 8 Bayberry Road. Can you hear me?
Yes, Joe.
Okay, thank you. My question would be for Greg. I'm sorry I came in late, so I'll catch it on the YouTube, Lot 1. But on Lot 2, my question for Greg would be the limit of work area. I can see the line going around, but on what would be perhaps the southeast end or southeast, southwest, where's that line going across there, Greg?
Sure. So as you're likely aware, Joe, at the southern end of this lot, there's an existing pool in place as well as
Yes.
a shed and a deck. We're not proposing any work beyond that existing pool shed location. You'll see in bold that we are proposing a small addition to that shed, but it's on the north side of it. There'd be no work on the south side of that shed.
Okay, so effectively from where the line ends on the right side of the rear of the lot over to the other side is the work area. That would be where that line would be. I
Correct.
see the line everywhere else, right? So, okay, that answers my question. I'm sorry for being late, but I'll just check it out on YouTube. And I think Greg pretty much covered a lot of things in these plans that weren't in the plans from the last meeting. So I can see where you're going with this. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Jen,
Thank you.
Jen, can I ask Doug a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
So maybe just for the commission. So Doug, I'm looking at the line the property line, I'm looking at the edge of Bayberry rather. I'm assuming that that's a private road. So could those plantings actually be between the property line and the edge of the road?
You're very, very perceptive, Frankie. Yes, they could, really, I suppose legally, as long as they don't interfere with the right to pass and repass over Bayberry Road. You know, it's subject to the rights of everyone else who lives out there on that road. I don't know who plows it, if the town maintains that or not, but if they wanted to do that, I suppose that
It would give them a little more wiggle room for.
it would give them some more wiggle room in front of that lot there if they wanted to put some plantings. I see it looks like a little bit of a, is there a fence right there? But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I don't legally, I don't see anything wrong with that. No, there's not a fence there. There's a water line that's going to be coming in, the gas and electric. So, but there is a nice little space between the lot and the pavement.
Yeah.
Did the engineers agree on that, Greg?
Yeah, we would agree that they could be placed there in between the infiltration trench and Bayberry Road. The applicant has no problem doing Rosa Rugosa along that frontage.
Sure.
I wouldn't preclude you, though, from putting them on the uphill side of that infiltration trench either. Rosa Rugosa is not it really doesn't have a deep root system. It's not a large tree that you're planting. So I really don't see it impacting the septic system at that location or any of those underground utilities, the water service or electric service there. So the uphill side would keep it on the subject property. That's probably the preferred location in my eyes, but if you wanted it to be within the layout of Bayberry Road, I don't think there's anything that would prevent that.
And I'm just wondering, we've already voted the other one, but I'm wondering if if saying Rose Rugosa is being too limiting, if we were able to say that it could be vegetation that's compatible with that location, it would allow them to mix it up a little bit with some other plantings.
I agree with that, Frank. I don't think we should be quite that limiting.
Yeah. As long as it's okay with Penny.
No, that's just something I thought, just some planting that's going to thrive down there. Okay, the ocean can come in, get it all wet, and it's still gonna come up next year. That's all. I was just thinking of something I know that would grow. Just something to help the neighbors and maybe dry up the street a little.
So we
So
can
I'm
put,
good with any planting, whatever they can plant.
so we can put in the orders request for some sort of planting plan on both 1 and 2.
Right. Yep, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
All
good.
right. I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
So I'll
So
make
I
a
think we
motion
could-
to close.
Okay, motion by Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Doug.
Second by Doug. All right, Frank,
Frank, yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Penny. Oh, Penny already did it. Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Richard. Didn't I get Richard already?
You did get Richard. You forgot Jen.
Oh, I'm not that important.
Oh, yes,
Jen,
you are.
yes. All right. Moving on.
Okay, great job, Jen. So now we're gonna go back to the beginning and have Frank read the opening statement for 7 New Driftway, please.
Okay. On December, did you read the other stuff, the
Yes.
opening thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thanks. On December 6, 2021 at 5:30 PM in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Driftway LLC for work related to construction of a multifamily building and site infrastructure at location 7 Driftway, Scituate. The butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay. Amy, do you
Okay,
want
I'm going to unmute Eric Shoemaker and Brad Holmes, who are going to present on this. Okay.
Force.
Right, Eric, you're up.
All right, thank you. So I can screen share too if that's easier for you guys, just so I can flip through the sheets. Do you mind?
That's fine.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Don't do that. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Would you mind just going to the existing conditions sheet, please?
No, that's proposed.
There we go. So my name is Eric Shoemaker. I'm a civil engineer at McKenzie Engineering Group. So we did the civil site layout design as well as surveyed the property. I'm here with Brad Holmes from ECR. He flagged the limits of inland bank on the site, and we're representing the client Driftway LLC. So just some background in the site. We're located at 7 New Driftway. That's Assessor's Map 53, Block 5, Lot 37F, and this is comprised of 1.25 acres. Situated on the site currently is a developed commercial building with associated parking lot. The building has since been abandoned. It's not in use. It used to be a medical office building. The property has frontage on New Driftway to the south and is bordered by developed commercial and residential property to the north and to the east, developed commercial property to the south, and Chief Justice Cushing Highway to the west. The First Herring Brook is located directly to the north. So the topography generally ranges from approximate elevation 18 at the site's entrance to about elevation 3 at the First Herring Brook. And there's currently no stormwater controls on the site. All of the runoff flows untreated either into the roadway or actually into the First Herring Brook through some curb openings. And you see the various colored lines in the plan. Those are all related to overlay zones that we're in. It's a pretty difficult site to permit. So we're located in the Village Center and Neighborhood District, the Greenbush Driftway Gateway District, Gateway Business Subdistrict, and a portion of the site is located in the Floodplain and Watershed Protection District, the Water Resource Protection District, the Salt Marsh and Tideland Conservation District, a DEP Zone 2, and FEMA Flood Zone AE that's associated with elevation 16. So you'll see later on in the plans, the location of the building was chosen based on all those various restraints related to zoning. We couldn't move the building to the east due to the line from the floodplain district. We couldn't move the building closer or any closer to the roadway due to the height restrictions and the step backs that would make the project unfeasible. So the limited inland bank, which is what we're mainly here to discuss, is located directly to the north. So that's a tidally influenced area. We actually took measurements out there of that stream at high and low tide, and we saw a pretty big difference of a couple feet in there. And the site's entirely located within the 200-foot riverfront area. Like I said, Brad from ECR delineated the inland bank on April 9th, and we field located it on April 12th and got it into our drawings. We'll move on to the next sheet. The site layout sheet should be C1. So this sheet just shows the proposed conditions of the site. the building, the setbacks, surface treatments. So we'll start at the building. It's going to be a 4-story residential building, 21 units total. It will also have associated parking lot with 21 units. There's underground parking garage as well. So also included will be a subsurface infiltration system underneath the parking lot for stormwater management and some utility connections. So our site shows here just parking lot with 20 spaces, 1 handicap in compliance with what we're showing. The land uses tables down to the bottom left show the required and proposed dimensional constraints as it relates to the zoning bylaw, the Scituate zoning bylaw for the district we're in, the Gateway Business Subdistrict. And as the site is currently comprised, the existing pavement is located about 5.5 feet from the bank of the First Herring Brook. That's the little tip of the parking lot to the north there. Our proposed design has the closest impervious surface being the retaining wall up there to the north, and that's located 7.5 feet from the riverbank. And like I said earlier, there's no stormwater controls on site. This project also qualifies as a redevelopment project under the riverfront area regulations. Moving on to sheet C2, the grading and drainage. So we designed a drainage system for this site. Our goal was to maintain the existing drainage patterns to the extent that we could and design a drainage system that complied with all the local and state stormwater management regulations and attenuates the 1, 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm events. So we analyzed a watershed area of about 1.16 acres, and that just consisted of the subject parcel to be developed up to the First Herring Brook. Now, our design points were the First Herring Brook and the new Driftway roadway layout. So we decreased the peak volumes and rates going to both of those design points and all those storms I mentioned earlier. So how the drainage works for this site, it's pretty simple. Runoff from the parking areas is captured by the catch basins and then conveyed to the pretreatment unit, where it makes it into the subsurface infiltration system under the parking lot and infiltrates into the native sand and gravel materials we found there. There's an overflow associated with that. I think it gets used in the 25-year storm event and afterwards, and that overflow is directed at the First Herring Brook at a reduced rate. That's pretty much it for this sheet. I'll touch on the utility plan too, which is the next sheet quickly. So just as we're worried about utilities here, the utilities are all underground. It includes underground electric, telephone, cable, conduits, underground gas, an underground sewer connection to the existing sewer manhole on New Driftway, and just domestic fire and water service utilities. With that, I'll hand it off to Brad Holmes to discuss the riverfront area regulations a little bit, and I'll answer any questions you guys may have.
Thanks, Eric. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. I know that Art Allen is on the line, so I'll keep it brief so that Art can provide some more information, and then I can answer any of the open-ended questions, if any, that Art may discuss. But as you know, this is a riverfront redevelopment project. The redevelopment regulations give sites like this some flexibility to redevelop with existing degraded areas. So the overall theme of the riverfront redevelopment regs is to make the site better, to improve the conditions within the riverfront. And I think we're doing that with the stormwater measures that Eric described. And we're also reducing the amount of degraded area on the site by about 9,000 square feet. We could redevelop that amount that's existing degraded, but there's actually a reduction in the amount of degraded area proposed. So that's a significant benefit to the riverfront in itself. In addition to that, we're also providing riverfront restoration and riverfront mitigation. We're proposing to do native plantings to restore riverfront areas and also mitigate with native plantings. If you had a chance to look through the submittal that we prepared and submitted that addressed each one of the standards for riverfront redevelopment, I think you'll see the points of improvement that are proposed with the project. But as documented, we're in compliance with the riverfront regulations by one, reducing the amount of degraded area, providing restoration and mitigation. And I know Art is going to provide some insight to the commission as well. I did get a chance to kind of coordinate back and forth throughout the process here. So I think I'll leave it at that so that I don't bore you too much more, because I think Art's going to hit on some of those points. But I think this is a great improvement for the property. I'll leave it for additional questions if you have any, or just address Art's comments. Oh, one piece I forgot to mention. In addition to the restoration mitigation, we're also providing some bank stabilization. There's an area of eroding inland bank that we're going to propose to address with some native soft solutions and native plantings.
Okay, thank you. Art, you ready to comment?
Sure. Art Allen from Ecotech, peer review consultant for the commission. I evaluated the site on September 30th of this year. Amy spent a little bit of time out there with me, and I went over my findings with her. I provided written comments dated October 5th of this year. So just briefly, yeah, as Brad noted, in the vicinity of the bank flags are IB5 to IB8. There's some fairly severe erosion. This pretty much the whole bank on this along First Herring Brook had historically been armored with large rocks, but in that corner, IB5 to IB8, it's the bank armoring has been undercut, and it's actually a lot of it's fallen into the brook already, and you know, that's going to continue to be a problem, you know, both for the brook and potentially for any future development on the site, as that bank continues to erode and cut closer into the developed areas. So I think Brad's come up with a nice kind of, and what I said was an innovative kind of combination of hard armoring and bioengineering in that area that I think, you know, ideally once they pull the existing building out of there and they can get access with equipment to the bank in that area, I think they can do a nice job according to Brad's protocol of stabilizing that bank along the First Herring Brook. So I agree with Brad's delineation of the bank / mean annual high water line as the starting point for riverfront area on the site. I don't have any issue with the delineation and depiction of the resource areas. I did have an issue primarily in terms, I agree this is a redevelopment project, and I agree they are showing some improvements and some mitigation. Brad's provided some additional detail on the native plantings for the site, which wasn't included in the initial filing. My main concern is with standards C and D of the Wetlands Protection Act regulations at 310 CMR 10.585. Section C states that within the 200-foot riverfront area, proposed work shall not be closer to the river than existing conditions or 100 feet, whichever is less. Clearly, existing conditions are less than 100 feet on this site. But again, the regulations say that the proposed work should not be closer than what's there. And section D, proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance with 310 CMR 10585 F or G. F or G pertain to restoration and mitigation in the riverfront area, which can be closer to the river, which is what they're proposing. But again, my concern in regards to those two sections is primarily that corner of the building, I believe the northwest corner, where they're encroaching quite a bit closer to the river or First Herring Brook than the existing structure, both with the new building and with retaining walls associated with the building. So that would be my primary concern with the project at this point would be, constructing that new building significantly closer to the brook than the existing building. And also one other comment that had not been addressed as of my latest review in an email dated October 28th was just pertaining to the regulatory performance standards in the bylaw for land subject to coastal storm flowage. Those standards should need to be addressed in addition. So those are my comments to date. Thank you.
I can address some of that if the commission would allow.
Sure. Thank you,
Thanks.
Ed.
Thanks, Art. With respect to the two standards regarding work closer to the river, which would be C and D of the riverfront regulations, as I stated before, the redevelopment regs give some flexibility for redevelopment. So what the regulations say is the goal is to move things further away from the river. And then it says except F and G, and except F and G means unless you propose restoration or you propose mitigation, may you exceed that standard. So the site overall has reduction of 9,000 square feet. So we really aren't required to do restoration or mitigation because we're already under the degraded amount of riverfront that exists. But because we are, there's a slight increase of new building over non-degraded area, we're proposing to restore that, and as we're also proposing mitigation. If you look at the northwest corner of the building where that's proposed, it occurs within an area of existing pavement, and there's actually that tip heads north, and the area around that will be removed and removed from degraded status. So it's a site constraint that we weren't able to reduce as far as the distance, but we are in compliance, in my opinion, because we are providing mitigation and restoration for that clause in both standards. And it is within an area that's already degraded and would be pulled back. I know Eric has some distances for buildings and pavement that he can provide to the commission. I think overall the setbacks are less than existing.
If I could, this is Art Allen again, just to clarify before we move off that point. Brad, that northwest corner is actually in existing lawn, which is not degraded. The northeast corner is within the parking lot, but.
I'm sorry, you're right. I meant northeast corner. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you're right.
I have no
I
problem.
was looking at that other corner as being closer. That northwest corner, right, is over lawn. There is a shed, that's closer out, kind of in the middle of the proposed building. That's a little further, but You're right. Thanks, Art.
Before we move, Frank,
Yes.
what is the reason, Brad, for situating the building at that angle? Why can't it be at the same angle as the original building? And we wouldn't be, because I'm concerned about that corner being so close. You know, why, is there some reason it has to be angled like that instead of keeping with the original building's angle?
I'll let Eric handle that. I think it has to do with the zoning setback, but
Yeah, it's a combination of a few things. One being the height. As you probably know, the Scituate zoning bylaw has a step back regulation. So it determines the height your building can be based on how far it is from the street. So that was one thing we had to comply with here.
It's just
Frank.
unfortunate.
But before we go through the commissioners, I just had a couple of things to say.
Yep, that would be good.
Yeah, so we're here opening this project, but one of the, things we want to do is try to get just the main points about the resource areas agreed to, as far as, do we agree with their inland bank? And so on and so forth. But I don't think that the project on this sheet or on the proposed sheets are going to be the project that you're going to approve, as it hasn't gone through the different boards yet. So I think this has had maybe one hearing with the planning board. Yeah, it has, which I believe they're working to gear up to another meeting, and possibly, I don't know what other boards and committees are needed, but there's a long way to go before we're going to be approving these plans. So I think, if you want to go through the commission and, I don't know, give your thoughts on whether you're going to give relief for the redevelopment on like non-degraded area, that could be a possibility, but otherwise I think it's probably, we're going to be just continuing this.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I think it would be helpful for commission members to give feedback. As you point out, this is going to be going before different boards and it'll be circling back to us, but I think it's important for folks to give some comment. And I think maybe it shouldn't be limited. If anybody else has any other thoughts, they can give that information to Amy or Jen, that we can always get that feedback, but take a swipe at it. It's all brand new tonight, and it's going to go through a process. So we've heard from engineer, heard from Brad. All right. Anything else you want to add, Amy, before we go to members?
No. Well, actually, I can add that there's been one review or initial review for stormwater compliance, and believe there's a pretty lengthy report of findings that are being addressed. So again, that makes me think that this will be revised considerably.
Okay. I'm gonna start with Doug.
Okay, thanks for that, Amy, because I think it's important to be efficient. So I'll just state what the concerns are. They don't have to be answered tonight, just so Eric can take it back to his group and let him know what we're looking at. So just in the voice of one member, I think my biggest concern, this is obviously, as he pointed out in his presentation, this is a very sensitive site. There's every resource. The Old Oaken Bucket Pond is right behind there. You can't get closer to being a delicate site than this one. First Herring Brook, is right there. So obviously, I think because of that, all the major concerns are going to be around the protection of the stormwater, the the protection of the groundwater and making sure that, as has been expressed, is that there's an improvement to the site. It is pretty degraded. And so that going forward, this is a better, you know, we're tasked with protecting the environment. So we're making a better, an improvement environmentally as at the end of this project. So that would be my primary concern. And there's a lot of expertise needed for that. So we'll be leaning heavily on our consultants. So I know that consultants will be working closely with Mackenzie to make sure all our concerns are met or addressed satisfactory, I think. Having said that, you know, so there's, again, you don't have to answer this tonight, but there's just some questions. One is the roof runoff being picked up with that same recharge system? Because I think it should be. I know that roof runoff is, you know, well, it can be argued that that's going to be considered clean. I just would like to see that picked up in this system too, as long as we're doing that. I'm curious about the amount of grading around this. It seems, I'm sure architecturally there's a reason for that with the layout of this building. But in the back, you've got a retaining wall about 5 feet out of the ground, and then it goes up from there. If I'm reading this correctly, the spot elevation is another 5 feet. So it's significantly out of the ground. I'm curious of the reason behind that we might be able to reduce some of the grading. Again, helping, you know, I'd like I said, there's probably a good reason for that architecturally, but that's something to at least look at that might be able to reduce some of the height of that building and some of the amount of fill that has to come in on the site to meet that elevation change. I think that's probably my two, and that's more of an observation than a concern. Biggest concern is going forward as we look at this is just protecting the groundwater and aquifer on this site. So, and I'll go to the next.
Thanks, Doug. Richard?
I really can't add a whole lot more than what Doug said. And I absolutely agree that this is a very sensitive area. I'm glad they want to improve the area, but it's very sensitive. And so that's going to have to be dealt with. And I kind of agree with Penny. I wish the building could be, even if it was a few feet, be moved slightly further away from the brook. Otherwise, I would hold any other comments for now.
Okay. Penny?
I still go back to the same thing. I don't like the situation of how close it is to the back there. I don't, and if you look at the overlay, which I was just studying, you said a setback from the road. There's no difference really in the setback of the two buildings. It's the angle. One corner is set back a little farther and the other one actually is closer. And I'm just concerned with our first Herring Brook and the resource area there, that we're going farther back instead of going to each side, a narrower building or something. I am not happy at all that it's this close. But that's just my, I don't know, I have to mull it over some more, Frank.
Okay. Brendan?
Sorry, things are not working well. Yeah, so I guess in regard to the setback, I mean, how is that? I guess I'm just confused as to how that does come into play with the angle. I mean, is it the average from the road? Is it, how is that calculated? I have no idea. So, or is it the closest point?
If If you look at the plan of the two, I don't see the difference.
Anybody?
You know, the overlay there.
Yeah. Well, why don't, maybe Eric wants to comment.
Yeah, so are you asking me about the height of the building?
Well, I guess
No,
more the question is, Eric, is commission members are looking at this and thinking that if this building were parallel with the setback from the road, the problem I see, if the building remains the same shape, that corner would be I guess it would be the northwest corner would wind up getting shifted closer to the river. So that really is unless the building changed shape, that's if you pivot this a little bit, but I think the requirements, is there any reason that this can't be pushed closer to the street or what?
It was based on the zoning relief, I guess, for, if you look at the building setback, step back, and street enclosure table, that pretty much governed our setback from the street based on the building's height in that area. The architect has a couple plans of just showing this building in varying height. And I guess that's the closest we were comfortable with situating the building to the street based on our height and the setback that they require.
Okay. And so there's a 9,000 square foot just reduction in degraded space. But I missed how much degraded space there currently is. Do we know that?
Yeah, I have that. So there's currently 29,563 square feet, or 54.4% of the riverfront area. That's going to be changed to 20,206 square feet, or 37% of the riverfront area. And we're reducing that parking lot size by just about half. We'll be decreasing the parking lot in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have for now.
Okay. Andy?
Not a lot to add. I mean, I think clearly the proximity to the brook is something we're going to be talking about here. I think everyone's flagged that. And I think maybe before the next meeting, it would be good to have some I don't have the regulation in front of me, but if I heard Art, or the two presentations of it right, one was presented as you can only go closer for the purpose of mitigation, and then the other interpretation was if you do mitigation, you can bring the building close. So I think it would be good to get some clarification on that as a commission before our next meeting. But I don't think I have anything further to add on that.
Do we want to take a minute to see if we can get an answer to that, or comment or question?
Yeah, unmute Art Allen.
Hi, Art Allen again. Yeah, I mean, clearly they have some flexibility under redevelopment to do the mitigation work. I mean, my opinion, again, is that really they need to keep the building away from the river, no closer than degraded, but that the restoration should be done as close to the river as possible, and can be done closer as necessary. There's discussion about changing the angle of the building. I mean, can the building be reconfigured in shape? Can it be made smaller? I mean, I don't see the hardship of having to put this size and shape, building on this lot. There's a lot of degraded area to work with here, and yeah, I just feel it's not in keeping with the regulations to be pushing closer to the brook in a non-degraded area. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Thanks, Andy. Does that help, Andy? Does that get to some of,
Yeah, yeah, that's helpful.
Jen?
I have nothing new.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
Yeah, if anybody has comments, you can raise your hand with the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen. We'll take your question. Otherwise, Frank, we can hear your comments.
Nobody's up. When you looked at that, am I correct that there's almost like 2 channels to the Herring Brook behind this building?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly been highly modified. I mean, one channel comes out of the old mill up along Chief Justice Cushing there, and yeah, it's. I mean, this was a historic mill area, and I think they've modified those channels, over time. But yeah, the main flow appears to be coming in closer to the building, and that's where we saw that the failing armored bank there in closer to the proposed work.
Okay. And I guess Doug made a comment on runoff from the roof, which I wanted to ask as well. So do we know what right now, Eric, where does the runoff from the roof go?
I modeled it initially as just going to the first Herring Brook. As you guys know, the roof runoff is considered clean. But after reviewing just that letter we got related to stormwater management from Mr. Chessier, he would like the roof to be captured as well. So that will be a factor in our next design, capturing that roof runoff.
Okay, thank you. I guess if you're looking for input to take back from this, I'm looking at the parking lot, and I realize if anybody's been to the site or you look at the photos, this building was built and the parking lot built without a lot of regulation, and an awful lot of the runoff from the existing parking lot goes off into the brook without any kind of treatment. So certainly, as they move along, this is a vast improvement in many ways, but is there a reason that the parking lot has to be right along that edge as well? If you're looking at possible changes, there's a decent sized island, and there's some other grass areas, and as much as it's nice to see some of that, I'm wondering if the strip between the parking and the edge couldn't be increased to push the edge of the parking and get a little bit more vegetation along there. And then I guess there's a 100-foot setback from Chief Justice Cushing Highway for the building, but does that include parking or accessory things? I mean, is there a reason to not consider, maybe it's better to keep a green area on that side of the building aesthetically?
There is a parking restriction in that zone.
Okay. And the number of units, that's a function of how much land you have and what's allowed in that zone? Is that?
Yes. That's, I believe there's some density calcs that went along with that. And it was also a function of what makes the project economically feasible for the client.
Okay. Well, I think pushing the building up against the edge of or closer to the river and the parking lot are ones that I think it would be helpful to see if in some way working this layout that you couldn't pull away from those areas, Eric. At least that would be my thought.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But improving the site is certainly a good goal as well. Anybody else?
Well, I'm hearing in the overall take home that I'm hearing from this is that the building should be brought away from the river and not, the new design not included in undegraded areas. So no new building in undegraded areas.
If that's feasible, I mean, I think there's some trade-offs like the one with all of this. And if shifting some of this around and getting a majority of it away and better infiltration, better treatment of runoff, all those things we should look at. But hopefully they can pull some of those away. The other thing would be helpful on a new plan would be maybe show some plantings that might occur in some of these areas, especially between the building or the parking lot and the river.
I think they do.
There is a landscape plan.
Is there?
in
Yeah, there is a landscape plan.
Oh,
There it is.
We can work with the commission to provide some more information, but as documented in the submittal, we're in compliance with the riverfront regulations as we see it. We'll provide some detail to that.
okay. Right. Well,
So,
I'm glad to see
Just-
something happen there, that's for sure. Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, I think this has been asked and answered, but they're parking under the building.
Correct.
Yeah, that probably is the reason for the elevation.
The elevation was, the calculation for height is based on average grade plane. So we had to kind of back calculate the grades around the building based on what the height had to be. So we had to, I guess the average grade plane is up at 18. So that's where we had to be to make the height work.
So you're actually filling to make the height regulation work?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is Art, if I could, through the chair.
Sure, right.
Just in terms of the mitigation plantings, I mean, Brad provided a response to my original comments dated October, his response was dated October 26, 2021. And he attached some plans, one of which was a proposed riverfront area restoration and mitigation plan that I do not believe was part of the original set. And in response to my request to provide native plantings, and he showed a number of native plantings within the proposed restoration areas. I just want to make sure those, I agree with his planting recommendations and proposal, and I just want to make sure that, those get drawn into whatever, final plans result, from the revisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Yeah, along with those
Go ahead.
plans is also the inland bank stabilization plan. So want to make sure that you have that as part of your plan set.
Is that in this that we're seeing tonight?
I'm not sure if it's in that set. It's in my submittal to the commission as attachments. I'm not sure if it's in the full plan set.
It wouldn't be in this set.
I will make sure when you're back in front of us that we can see that.
We'll make sure you have a complete set.
All right, maybe we can disperse that to the commission members too. That'd be great. Okay.
You want to continue it?
Do we have an
Yeah.
idea?
I would say continue this to first meeting in February or something like that.
The applicant, do you have any thoughts on how long you're going to be?
I know the planning board meeting is in January. I think it's one of the first 2 weeks in January, so yeah, after that would be helpful. Do you have any late January that you meet?
The
How about
21st.
February 28th?
February 28th.
That's a lot later than the end of January.
Yeah. Is it possible
Yeah,
to do
The
before that?
January meeting, you won't have met with yet. So we want to give you time to revise your plans.
Okay.
February 7th. Would that give enough time?
Yeah, that would, yes.
Amy?
I don't think that that's going to do it, but you can do it. Yeah, February 7th is fine. They can continue it if the plans aren't in within our time frame.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue 7 New Driftway to February 7th.
You gotta get a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Doug, all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
So now we're at 9 Pondview. Is that right?
109L.
No,
No,
109 Elm, Frank, you need to open that, please.
Ann read.
109L. Oh, okay. On December 6, 2020 at 5:30 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Mark Richardson for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation on property located at 109 Elm Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted at the town website. Okay, and we have. What do we have in for that?
This is Greg Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering.
Hi, Greg.
Good evening. As was just read into the record, this is an ANRAD application filed on behalf of my client, Mark Richardson, for property at 109 Elm Street. With this ANRAD application, it is to confirm the limits of the bordering vegetated wetlands on the subject property. There is no work proposed. The site itself is approximately 408,000 square feet in size. We had the wetlands delineated on the site by Brad Holmes, a professional wetland scientist of Environmental Consulting and Restoration LLC. The site with the wetlands on it yields approximately 280,158 square feet of upland land area. That wetland delineation was put out for peer review by the commission to Art Allen of Ecotech. There were a couple of revisions to the line itself. Specifically, we revised the plan with respect to flags 23R1 and 2, and then in the vicinity of flag A40 through 42 to AA11. DEP had no comments on this. Again, there's no work proposed. This is just to delineate the edge of the BVW. I believe Mr. Allen is on the phone as well. Turn it
Thank
over to you.
Yep. Why don't we, Amy, go right to Art, if that's okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Art Allen from Ecotech. So I reviewed this site on September 22nd initially, and then met Brad Holmes out there on September 30th. We both got significant injuries from the thorns on the site. I think we're probably pretty well healed up at this point, but that being said, yeah, there was a number of revisions that Brad and I agreed to. They were depicted on a revised wetland delineation plan dated October 26, 2021. The wetland out there is associated with an unmapped intermittent stream that appears to originate within the wetland at a culvert. And the culvert appears to be carrying stormwater from Elm Street and up gradient areas on into the wetland on the site. At this point, as noted, I'm in agreement with the revised plan. And, you know, I have no further comments on the field delineation or the delineations as represented on the revised plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Art. Frank, I
Amy?
don't have any additional comments. I think we can go through the members. It's pretty straightforward. Probably end up closing.
Okay. Let's see. Richard?
If there's no work to be added to this, move along. I got nothing.
Okay. Penny?
If Art's happy, I'm happy.
Wow. There you
Wow.
go. How come only Art?
He's got a lot of power.
Expert. He's the expert.
Jen?
I would echo those sentiments. If Art is happy, then I'm happy as well.
Jeez, Art.
Art has power.
Andy?
I'm all set.
Thanks. Brendan?
All set, thank you.
Douglas?
All good.
Anybody in the audience for this one? All right, why is there, or,
Seeing none, Frank.
yeah, Art or Brad, why is there another set of wetlands dots that aren't connected? What's that?
It's the old one.
Those are at my request just to depict the original flags for comparison.
Okay,
So yeah, the connected line is the line that I'm suggesting be approved. The original flags are just shown disconnected.
okay. And then there's and between A23, R1 and R2, those are just, they connect there as well.
Yep, connects out to those revised flags, 1, 2, 3, R1, R2, R3.
Did you move those out due to soils or vegetation or topography? Is there a reason to?
Yeah, on this site, we were looking at it's a relatively undisturbed site. We were looking at all the criteria. So the areas where revisions were made were where we had dominant wetland vegetation and, and hydric soils on this site.
Okay. And this site it's about what, a 10-acre site?
Yeah, whatever
Overall,
that-
yes.
If you can do the math on the square footage, yeah, that probably.
It's too hard.
700,000 feet.
Well, the total is 408,000, right?
No, the total is almost 700,000 feet.
Oh, the total is 408,000 square
my
feet.
mistake, My mistake.
So that's 9.3 acres.
Okay.
The other number, Rich, is just the upland
Right.
area.
So the difference is what's a wetland.
Yep.
Correct.
So there's roughly 120,000 feet of wetland.
Yep.
But most of this property is in the water protection resource area.
Yep. Elm Street.
Okay, I guess I don't have anything. I'd take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
We get a second
Second.
by Richard. All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Art again. If it's at all possible, if you want me to sit in on the enforcement discussion for 7 Dunbar, if that could possibly be done, they're actually waiting for me at at a hearing in Uxbridge.
Okay. Amy, can we do that, or Jen?
I think we could. We're gonna pause the public hearings. And just go into one of our enforcement discussions under administrative items,
Yeah.
Sounds-
which actually this is a site that we received a notice of intent for at 7 Dunbar. And some of you might recognize this one because we've been going back and forth, and it had been in front of you a number of years ago. But anyway, so I met Art out there last week, and I'll just have Art take it from here.
Sure, thanks, Amy. As Amy noted, we met out there last week on December 2nd. I reviewed the site. In addition to some additional documentation, Amy had sent me two different violation notices the commission had issued for unpermitted shed work in 2018 and 2020, and also determination of applicability for a small addition in exchange for removing a shed back in 2014. She also provided A&R plan of land from October 4th, 2011, so 10 years ago. Most interesting is that 2011 plan showed a Brad Holmes ECR wetland delineation. And it's the 2011 delineation is significantly different, shows quite a bit more wetland on the site than the 2021 Brad Holmes ECR delineation that was part of the current notice of intent. That kind of piqued my curiosity. So I was looking for that when I went to the site. I had also pulled up myself some Google Earth, the chronology of aerial photos. And actually the photo I attached to my December 5th, 2021 report to the commission shows from 2017, you can clearly see piles of fill material in the backyard of the site that had not been graded out yet. And that fill material to the north of the house appeared to be within the area that Brad had delineated as wetland 10 years ago. And also there's an existing shed within that fill material that also appears to be within the historical wetland area. When I went to the site, I noted clearly fill material out to the edges of the existing lawn and out to the existing shed. I noted hydric soils between some of Brad's wetland flags and the fill material. It appeared to me that there was probably been upwards of 150 cubic yards or so of fill placed on the site since that 2017 aerial photo showing the filling in progress. So in addition to the commission's concerns about unpermitted sheds, it appears that they did quite a bit of filling, and at least some of it within historical wetland areas as recently as 2017. So that's why I didn't spend a lot of time with the notice of intent proposal, because at this point it appears there's violations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate wetland bylaw related to unpermitted clearing of vegetation, filling of wetlands and buffer, along with shed construction. And I'd recommend putting the current notice of intent on hold pending resolution of the violations. I'd recommend the extent of filled wetland should be determined along with restoration of areas that were filled in violation as necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Amy, do you want to speak to this anymore?
No, I mean, I think that you should take a vote on it though. For pursuing basically what Art just said, enforcement and a restoration plan.
So right now, there's a,
Site
Is it-
visit if you want to take a look at it, but I mean, it's a pretty well-groomed lot as it sits right now.
so I'm a little confused. Do we have an application or we have a current notice of intent on that property or an RDA?
Yes. Yes, a couple weeks ago, we received a notice of intent for an addition and a separate garage building out by First Parish.
And we haven't
And
opened
that
that.
kicked off peer review of the source areas.
Okay,
And doing some research, looked at our previous filings. I mean, it rang a bell with me as far as enforcement that we have basically had prodded but hadn't received any real response from. And then actually also saw that determination where the shed was ordered to be removed. So that's why, like Penny was like, that guy needs to remove the shed. And so that's came together there, but I didn't have a, didn't realize how extensive the filling was, but I also did the Google, Earth look back. You can clearly see that since the property was purchased by this owner back in 2011, when it was subdivided, that it went from, completely vegetated in a smaller building to a open yard and improved with a larger shed and also like a stone patio fire pit area, et cetera. So
okay. We haven't opened this yet, have we? You have the application, but we haven't.
we have the application and it was on the list to advertise for the next hearing to open.
Mhm.
But administratively, I mean, I think if we send out an enforcement order and then notify them that we're gonna stay the notice until compliance with restoration. I think that's what we're being recommended to do.
So do that before we open it. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Are we ever in any peril with not opening that by a certain time?
I don't think so, Art. Do we need to open the notice of intent? And then
Well-
continue it pending?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could legitimately call this an incomplete filing because of the issues with the fill and really a delineation that's not representative of the pre-violation conditions on the site.
Okay. All right, thanks, Art. So do you want a motion for this, Amy?
Yes.
Is it a motion for an enforcement order, Amy?
Yes.
Pursue
I make-
enforcement and restoration,
Okay, I make a motion.
evaluation, restoration. Yeah.
I make a motion for an enforcement order and a restoration plan for 7 Dunbar.
Okay, we need a second.
Second from Jen.
Okay, all in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Have we sent anything out to the owner yet, Amy? Did you send them
No,
No.
not this year.
any-
Not this year, right.
All right.
We've
Okay.
had numerous,
No, I know.
you know.
Okay. All right, thanks for your help tonight, Art.
Yeah, no
thanks,
problem.
Art.
Thanks for accommodating me. Have a good night.
You too.
Ooh.
Okay, so now we're gonna shift back to 9 Pondview.
Yes.
Somebody can get me in the right direction here. So this is a continuation, and this is Greg Morse.
Good evening, Greg Morse, representing the property owner, James and Mary Shea. This is a notice of intent application associated with the addition to the Shea's residence at 9 Pondview Ave. As depicted on the plan here, you'll see the house is kind of centrally located on this lot. The lot is about 8,000 square feet in size. The resource areas that we have on the lot are FEMA floodplains. There are 3 of them. Starting at the rear of the property, which is at the top of the page here, is an AE at elevation 16. The middle of the lot where the house exists is an AE zone at elevation 12. And at the bottom of the page where the street is an AE at elevation 13. These are all classified as land subject to coastal storm flowage. For reference, the topography elevations where the house is range from elevation 10 to elevation 12. The house at this location is FEMA compliant. The first floor elevation is at elevation 15.7, and the home is equipped with flood vents. The proposal here is to construct an addition off the back of the house. The addition is what we've shown with the bold black line. That would match the first floor elevation at elevation 15.7 and be equipped again with FEMA compliant flood vents. There's no change in the topography or fill proposed on the site. DEP had no comments. I turn it over to you.
Amy?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I mean, on this one, again, it's a pretty busy site, you know, although it's a land subject to coastal storm flowage is the applicable jurisdiction. And I am just wondering applicability of the Scituate stormwater bylaw. I believe that Greg does provide an analysis that shows that it's not applicable. So given that, I don't really have much to say. It needs to be compliant with FEMA, which it appears that it is, no fill. So I don't have much else to say. I also agree DEP had no comment.
Okay. This house was built in what, 16 or 17?
Yes, it was. And we actually filed for the certificate of compliance to close out the original order of conditions just a couple months ago. The commission issued the certificate of compliance on that.
Okay. And I'm going to get to other members, but so that's enough time has passed so that that addition isn't considered part of that original filing, right?
That's my understanding, Frank.
Okay, all right, sorry. Jen?
Oh, yikes. Thanks, Penny. I think I'm okay for now. Because it's all disturbed land and everything. I think this is fine with me.
Okay. Penny?
No, I'm happy.
Okay. Andy?
I am all set on this one.
Like, what are you doing?
Doug?
I think I just want to follow up on your comment about the time lapse between, this is a fairly new site, we just issued a COC, and then this is an addition going on, like, when you mentioned has enough time passed by, do we have a time frame for that? How does that work?
I believe there's some sort of time frame, like, I'm thinking more like a renovation to a home. Like if you have multiple building permits that that ultimately add up to an improvement of more than 50%, then the building has to be compliant. And if you have a structure that's built and say it didn't trigger stormwater or some other regulatory piece, has enough time lapsed since the initial project so that is irrelevant, I guess. And it did get a certificate of compliance, but I think the project was actually done I think the permitting was in 16 and the house was probably finished in 17.
Did we have a bylaw in effect then? Stormwater bylaw?
Yes.
There was. And this didn't trigger it then. So are you suggesting that if this was today, that it would trigger it?
I'm just asking the question. Or
Okay.
is that even relevant? If enough time, usually if enough time is lapsed, then
Is that time specified? Or is it a judgment call? I mean, obviously it's 20 years later, like that's a lot of time. Zoning is somewhere around 6 years for things like setback.
well, this was 16 or 17, so we're talking what, 4.
I'm just trying to know something going forward. That's all. I don't want to hold up this. I don't really have any other comments. I just trying to understand if that's something that we're supposed to be looking at.
It would have seemed to me like enough time's lapsed, but it was just more of a question.
Okay.
Greg, have
Yeah,
you
I'm
ever heard of an actual time frame?
No, there's nothing in the Wetlands Protection Act or in the Scituate bylaw that prevents you from filing one application and then filing subsequent applications. There's no reference to a time that needs to pass in between those. So no, I'm not aware of any requirement. The only thing I could think of, which may be a little confusing, would be if you were talking about building permit applications and with respect to whether a project would be required to be fully in compliance with FEMA to be considered a substantial improvement. This existing home is already FEMA compliant, so it's not a matter of staggering building permits in trying to avoid compliance with FEMA. The house that's there already complies, and the addition, would comply as well. But no, I'm not aware of anything.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Where did I leave off? Who hasn't weighed in? Richard?
I haven't, and I will, and I'm good.
Okay. And Brendan?
I am good.
Did I miss anybody?
Andrew.
Andy?
Yeah, you got me. I'm set.
Yes. Okay.
Butters.
Anybody? Any butters? Thanks, Amy. Okay. Make a motion. Somebody,
Make a motion to close.
that's Penny, who's second.
I'll second that.
From Doug. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you. 208, Chief Justice Cushing. This is continued.
This is continued. You opened it and immediately continued it for peer review. So, but we haven't actually heard the opening presentation from Morse Engineering, so I'm going to unmute Greg and let him present the project, and then I can weigh in.
Okay. Greg, if you're there.
Greg Morse, representing the property owner Sean Pacheco. This is a notice of intent for his property located at 208 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The property itself is 41,201 square feet in size. Chief Justice Cushing Highway is at the bottom of the page. The property is kind of L-shaped, and at the top right of the lot, that handle that sticks out, we've highlighted in blue the edge of the salt marsh. The salt marsh was delineated by John Zimmer of South River Environmental. Extending off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer zone, and in green, the 100-foot buffer zone. The topography at this site, we're also located in land subject to coastal storm flowage, existing at the contour line AE 16. What exists out at the site today, the site has a new single-family home, which is well under construction at this point. This is the home that's almost directly or diagonally across the street from the Oro restaurant on Route 3A that is being built. The home and the associated utilities, the septic system, the driveway, we're all outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So this did not require a hearing or a permit with your commission to construct that home. But now that the home is underway, the applicant has decided to construct a detached boathouse building, which is the subject of this notice of intent. You'll see that depiction located in the handle portion of this site. It's within the 100-foot buffer zone and within the land subject to coastal storm flowage areas. It's a 1.5-story building. It's a slab on grade foundation. You would drive in on the north side of the building through a gravel driveway. Utilities would be accessed outside the 100-foot buffer zone from the existing house. We would connect an electric service, sewer service, and a water service, again, outside the 100-foot buffer zone. But the building itself is 81 feet from the salt marsh. There's a deck on the back of the building. The deck is 65.7 feet away from the salt marsh. We've proposed erosion control barriers at the down gradient limit of work. You'll see that the limit of clearing associated with this is approximately 3,000 square feet of land area. The commission had hired Bob Gray of Sabatia to do a peer review of the project. I met with Bob. I also met with the agent out at the site to review it. I believe Sabatia was in agreement with the salt marsh delineation out at the site. They had us add delineations for the riverfront area associated with the Herring River, which is a coastal tidal river located off-site. However, the 200-foot riverfront area extends onto the site. All of the proposed work associated with the boathouse is outside of the 200-foot riverfront area. Sabatia also made a recommendation that we include on the plan an area for vista pruning. Vista pruning is allowed inside a riverfront area and is defined in the regulations essentially as selective cutting of branches to create a vista or view. And this site here certainly warrants that. We talked about the location of that view shed out at the site, and I've depicted it on the plans as being essentially a 20-foot wide view shed, and I included notes on the plan regarding that it would only be selected branches that would be taken down in that review with the agent on site prior to any cutting at that location would be required. There would be no earth disturbance. It would purely be vegetation removal to create a view shed. DEP had no comments on this. I believe Mr. Gray, Sabatia, submitted a letter in agreement with the revised plans that we submitted. I'd turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Yeah, so I concur with the site visit with Bob Gray, and the resource areas as shown appear to be accurate in accordance with Bob Gray. And also duly note the vista pruning for the view shed. That could be a condition and needs to be pretty well spelled out, I think, so that it's specific to vegetation. And then, I mean, a couple of comments would be, this is definitely, you know, getting pretty close into the 100 foot buffer towards the 50. So just want to be cognizant that it is a buffer project, but also is combining in aggregate, triggering off the stormwater review for the main house. Greg said the main house is largely, I mean, the house is up and controls are in, although I don't believe there's a limit of work or anything like that. But I mean, it looks pretty stable. Although I do think that consistent with other projects of this nature, that this stormwater control should be reviewed by professional, just to make sure that they will work and, you know, demonstrate that they're appropriate. So other than that, I don't think I have much comment.
Okay. Richard?
Just wonder why it's quite as far over beyond the 100 or into the 100 as it is, why it could not be, you know, pulled back a little bit more toward the house if that was just impossible, if that's strictly a preference, whatever the situation is.
Greg?
Sure. So that location was chosen because of the view that's afforded from that location. Not depicted on this plan here is there is a new house that's going to be going up on the property just to the top of the page of this. I believe that's the Cavini property that you have as your minor modification. So this location here was chosen so it would get a view around that house and not interfere with that property.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. That's it for now.
Andy?
Oh, that was my question. I'm good after that.
Okay. Brendan?
I have no additional question right now.
Okay. Jen?
I'm just trying, there's a lot of great lines happening here. Is there any replication or that I missed?
No, we weren't proposing any replication because we're entirely outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. The building's 81 feet, while the deck on the back of the building is 65 feet. I hear the comment regarding, you know, proximity of being, you know, proximity to that 50-foot buffer. Certainly, if the commission could condition, we could install probably 2 conservation posts along that buffer just to ensure that it's well documented where the limit of clearing or the limit of the 50-foot buffer is on the site. But no, we were not proposing any mitigation plantings.
Okay. I'm not sure what's appropriate exactly, but there's trees being cleared, yes?
There are a couple of cedar trees that would be coming down in that location, and then it's
Okay.
largely invasive vines as well.
Oh, those are nasty. I don't like those.
There's
I
not
do
much
like
of
trees.
Yeah, there's not much of an understory at this location. So So not significant clearing, no.
Understory? What's an understory?
New trees, low trees under
Shrub level.
shrubs.
Oh, okay. Never heard that. Learned some. Thanks for teaching me something new, Greg. Yeah, I guess I would be interested in some form of replication or something on the site. I totally agree on conservation markers. You are correct. It's not in the 50, but you know, trees are coming down inside the 100-foot buffer. So I don't know what I think would be great, but just tossing it out there.
Richard, did I get,
You did.
and Penny? Is Penny there?
Where did she?
Penny?
go? Oh, wow, that's quiet.
Doug?
She's waving. She's muted.
No, I'm
There
not.
she goes.
I'm all set, Frank.
There you
Okay.
go.
Doug?
Greg, this shows the slab of the boathouse at elevation 17. But I don't see any grading on the plan. How is that being constructed? And
Sure. So
I apologize if you'd said that in your opening comments.
sure. So it would be a concrete frost wall down into the ground. The slab there in the garage would be at elevation 17. You know, on the salt marsh side, I believe the existing grade is approximately elevation 14. So you'd have approximately 3 feet of foundation showing. We weren't proposing to bring fill in to that floodplain area.
Okay. And then the deck will be attached up at the 17-foot level on
Actually,
sonotubes or something?
the deck is off the second floor elevation, so the deck is well elevated.
Oh, okay. This is really dumb then. So how do you get the boats in and out?
Like, I use the term boathouse, but it's more a
That's the
a
loose
viewing,
term.
a viewing
I gotcha.
hangout to see the boats out in the river.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes more sense then. Okay. I get it. Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
Frank, can I just insert something quickly here?
Sure.
Plan, one thing, the plan that we're using for visual purposes here is it doesn't show the complete site. It's only showing what was provided to us for the notice of intent. But last week, Greg did submit to us a stormwater application with the entire site in aggregate on one plan, which would be the subject of the stormwater review. So that's, as stormwater authority, that's the plan that you're looking at, which is not this plan. I just want to make sure that was clear to everybody.
Is that review process ongoing right now? Maybe?
There's a request for funds, but it hasn't been funded yet.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss that with the commission if now's an appropriate time or.
Sure.
Sure. So this site, the home itself, being outside the 100-foot buffer, did not require a conservation permit for construction of the home. The home site itself did not require a stormwater permit. It did not trigger any of the thresholds for a stormwater permit. So the building permit was obviously issued and the home is well under construction at this point. It's framed, it's sided, the windows are in, the septic system is in, all of the rough grading on the site is done, the utilities are connected. What triggers the stormwater permit is now that we've filed for this notice of intent, our limit of disturbance of the site goes above the 15,000 square foot disturbance threshold in the bylaw, so that now we're disturbing approximately 18,000 square feet of land, which triggers a stormwater permit. The Scituate bylaw allows two different types essentially of stormwater permits. They allow a full-blown application, which includes a full public hearing process. They also allow for a low impact development type project or an administrative review, which does not require the public hearing and full-blown process. We were hopeful and we filed it as an administrative review. Now, as part of that, we submitted the application that's on the website. We included this plan here, which shows the erosion control areas, and we included a narrative that says how the site complies with the stormwater bylaw. When it comes to compliance with the stormwater bylaw, the applicant took it upon himself when he built the house to install dry wells. And those dry wells are depicted on the plans here. And I submitted pictures of those dry wells. There are 3 systems attached to the roof gutters of this house. Physically, the gutters haven't been installed yet, but the dry wells have been, and they will be connected. When we look at the runoff that's going to come off of this boathouse, it is insignificant. The boathouse is 600 square feet in size. It discharges to land subject to coastal storm flowage, where we don't have any requirement to mitigate rates or volumes of runoff. Sure, the commission gets to look at erosion of the site, but again, this site has been under construction since last spring. It went through all of the storm events we had this past summer without any erosion issues. It's pure sand and gravel. We had 4 documented perk tests on the site, all less than 2 minutes an inch. There is no groundwater at this site. So stormwater, we don't have any down gradient to butters. We discharge to the salt marsh. Stormwater is not a significant part of this site. And the applicant, again, has been proactive in installing these dry well systems. So I've documented all of that. I've included it in the narrative. I provided the application because that's what's required. It is not required in the bylaw anywhere to have a peer review in excess of $1,800. It certainly is the commission's ability to ask for a peer review. And in this case, the conservation agent has asked us to fund $1,800 for a peer review for dry wells that are already installed on an application that's 600 square feet of roof area. That makes no difference because it discharges to the salt marsh and we don't have any erosion. We would ask that the peer review not be required on this site and that the administrative permit can be issued. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Amy, do you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what Greg's point is actually, but so we need to have a professional look at the calculations, which have not been provided, which demonstrate that the system that they've installed works. So that would be consistent with what you do for other projects. I mean, it is, I guess, unfortunate that they aggregately backed into the stormwater bylaw, but we are the administering authority and we do not do administrative reviews in-house. So we would need that information to review so that they can demonstrate that their systems work. It's pretty straightforward.
So what I'm confused a little bit at is apparently there were not infiltrators required for this house, but the applicant installed them anyways. Is that my?
Yes, that's what the understanding is.
So now
Which
we're saying.
details are shown on the stormwater plan that Greg submitted last week with the stormwater application.
And you're saying because these are being shown now as part of that they need to be looked at?
No, it's the fact that the aggregate of the project triggers the stormwater bylaw and review, and that we don't do that review in-house. So we give it to the peer review professionals to sign off on. And That's just what we're looking to do, just like any other site. It's just this site, the applicant took it in there, you know, they want to try to stay one step ahead of the game and install, I guess, the infiltrators before, hoping to take care of any problems. So, I mean, I would say it should be a real simple review if everything's already in. But I'm not sure if that will work effectively or not, given that I'm not a design engineer and nor are you.
So I guess so Greg, are you questioning the amount of money that's being requested, or that it doesn't need to be reviewed at all?
I'm requesting kind of two things. One, that every stormwater application has to go to peer review. That's not a requirement in the bylaw, okay? The bylaw allows you to ask for a peer review, certainly. I understand that, but it's not a requirement. What is a requirement is that the applicant submits a plan showing how they're going to take care of their stormwater. It's recommended in the bylaw that the applicant hire a PE, a professional engineer, to do that, but that's not even a requirement for the submittal. Our applicant has done that. They've hired a professional engineer. You have a plan by a professional engineer and you have a certification by a professional engineer that the system has been designed appropriately. You're not required to put it out for peer review, although you can. Secondly, we're asking for credit for these systems which are already installed. The conservation agent says I haven't provided calculations. I have. I've provided a narrative. And in that narrative, I've outlined the 10 standards of the DEP stormwater management system, of which there are essentially 2 that you would look for calculations for. The first one would be standard number 1, which is typically that you show that you're not increasing the rates and the volumes of runoff from your site to a down gradient property. This commission and the DEP allow that to be waived when the property discharges to land subject to coastal storm flowage, the ocean. We're not going to flood out the ocean. There's no houses down gradient of us. There's no property that's going to be negatively affected. We're not going to displace the ocean with additional stormwater. Standard number 3, however, is the other standard, which has to do with recharge of the groundwater supply. It's a very simple calculation. You look at the impervious land area, which in this case here is 600 square feet for this roof. And there's a standard that says that you have to provide 0.6 inches of water for every square foot of roof as recharge for the groundwater supply. That yields that on this site, I'm required to provide 30 square feet or 30 cubic feet of stormwater recharge. These dry wells that have already been installed provide 422. We provide more than 10 times the required recharge. Now, I realize that the site has not been peer reviewed, but it has been reviewed by a witness of the Board of Health for soils. The soils are less than 2 minutes an inch, sand and gravel. I've provided pictures from the excavation contractor, and my office has inspected these dry wells out at the site. They are crushed stone with infiltrators, which are standard practice in the industry. They've been installed. I provided pictures of those to the commission. So it seems like an enormous waste of money to spend additional resources on an $1,800 peer review of this when there's no one affected down gradient. The applicant has already gone above and beyond what's required in the stormwater bylaw. We were hopeful to move this forward without the peer review if we could.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to the proposed project for a second. And I'm just kind of looking at the plan. It showed like a stockade fence, which I'm assuming was the former owner's properties. So is there more clearing? I know we're doing kind of talking 2 things at once. Your request on the peer review, and we're still looking at this filing. So is there additional clearing to make way for this boathouse and deck?
Yes, so the additional clearing, you'll see that there's a proposed tree line on the top side of the boathouse. You'll see that arced line that represents the new tree line or the new limit of clearing on the site.
So where the arrow points to proposed limit of clearing and erosion control,
Yes,
is there already part of that area that's cleared out, like where the boathouse is proposed? Is that cleared or did that?
it is partially cleared. You can see where the cursor is now is the existing tree line there.
Yeah,
Okay, there was a garden in that area that the previous owner had. Again, a lot of the low story or understory in that area has been previously pruned and cut. But there are some taller trees in that area, and that's what we're proposing to take down.
and those trees are in the 100.
Yes, they are.
And is there any proposal for any replanting, Greg?
We weren't proposing any additional plantings as part of this, no.
Well, for the proposal, I'd kind of like to see if they could propose it or have a couple of trees replanted. I'm not quite sure where they'd be, and I realize there's a view issue, but just wondering what could be done to enhance this. I haven't visited the site, so I really don't know what's out there.
Sure, the trees out there are generally cedar trees. Yeah, I think we certainly could enhance along that property line there between the Cavini property, which is the MCHM Realty Trust on this plan, and the proposed boathouse. We could add some supplemental plantings between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer there. Would serve both as screening as well as mitigation inside of that 50 to 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I have a question. If that boathouse and patio was not in the 100-foot buffer zone, they wouldn't be here. Correct? So who would review the stormwater?
It would be the planner.
The town planner?
Yes.
So this would trigger it one way or the other. And does the town planner have the administrative review process? They would just be the approving authority for the same exact bylaw, right?
Yes.
So
And it-
in there is the
Review.
option for an administrative review
Yes, but these all go to peer review.
from the town planner as well.
Yes, and FYI, 1,800 is, unfortunately, these are expensive, but it's in the low end of the range that extends up to 2,800. So or more, depending on the findings, because oftentimes the review results in missed information or back and forth. So if the engineer doesn't nail it the first time, then it has to go back and forth, which costs money.
Yeah, no,
mean, you see these projects, Doug, what do you think in terms of a site like this with perk rates, seeing the size of the site?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, like if it 2-minute stuff, if it's gravelly, especially, I mean, you know, the waters, they're gonna work. Yeah, and I have no doubt. I mean, I don't know. Did we all get the Greg's letter in there? Did I miss that? I was trying to find that in my emails, but I'm not gonna keep
So the
digging here. But
stormwater stuff may or may not have been officially part of your packet since it was received last week after our deadline. And
okay,
yeah, so that may not have been under your original meeting packet info.
I mean, I understand the frustration around, you know, consistent, peer reviews, because it's not the money, but sometimes the delay in projects and kind of I think there's maybe a principle about the whole thing that's being argued here too. But so I get it. I also am, the commission needs to try to be consistent in what they ask for all applicants. So I get that too. It feels like there's a little bit of a tug of war here. Greg said that he certified that those recharge systems up at the house are adequate. If the soil is as good as they say, then I can't see that on the plan. But if they went to the Board of Health and everything, and the soils are that good, I mean, they are really likely to work. I don't think that we can get caught up in looking at soils though and saying the soils are such that we want a peer review and other soils are really good, so then in our opinion, we don't need a peer review. Have you done an administrative review before? Have you done that, Amy? Or is this the first time you've been requested to
No,
go
it's
under?
not the first time we've been requested administrative review. But I would say that consistently we get these peer reviewed. It's just not something that we do. I think the intent, what my understanding was, and Doug, you were part of the stormwater shop bylaw, whatever, where we were trying to make some changes to it, was originally, when it was written by the former town planner and building commissioner, was that the bylaw was that administrative provision was that could be reviewed by in-house engineering staff in DPW, but that is not something that the town can do given workloads and so on. So they all go to peer review.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody at town's gonna want to get into that. And do you have to submit full drainage calculations, like a complete? I guess you do.
While you ponder this for a minute, does anybody else have any comment on either vegetation or the request for administrative review for the stormwater? Richard? Richard, are you muted?
He is.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was muted. I think it's it's unfortunate, to say the least, that something that looks to be pretty straightforward would cost $1,800. But I have to agree that in the interest of consistency, as much as I feel badly about it in many ways, I think we have to stay consistent.
Okay. Penny?
She's muted too.
Jen?
Yeah, I think Richard explained it well, so I support that.
Andy?
Yeah, it seems best to me to be consistent.
Brendan?
I agree with Richard and everyone.
All right, Penny? I believe Penny doesn't.
She's
wanna
off
weigh in.
camera, Frank. She might have stepped away.
Okay. And anything else on the vegetation, or are we in agreement that we could look for some additional plantings?
Agreed.
Okay. Well, I kind of share the frustration that Greg is talking about with some of these minor pieces, and it just seems to get more and more costs built into things that could be done fairly simply. And it is hard to break them apart. Spending a lot of time in Scituate, I know areas that would be areas of concern or places, and there's still frustration that some of the more difficult sites don't get peer reviewed or don't even get a stormwater. And then an area that could easily handle this sort of thing without a worry about runoff gets reviewed. So I understand that frustration, and I'm not quite sure how you deal with that. We're watching some of these small, tight sites that don't trigger it because there's not a grade issue or the size or whatever. And then there's problems with runoff later. And then we have a site like this that you look at and say, there's no way there's going to be a problem, but we have to go through the paces. I don't know. Till we can sort that out. I think we got a consensus from the commission that they think that that should still get done. So I don't know what could be said here tonight.
Well, I think I'm not sure in what situation then we would only go with an administrative review. And so that's, allowed, but it's, that's the only thing, is that when we're being consistent, then not sure in which situation that would be. And maybe that's the way it's going to be, that anything that goes to the stormwater review goes to a peer review, and then that's just the end of it.
Well, it's true. It's too bad if there's a provision in that stormwater that allows for administrative review, but we just don't do it. That to me is a little frustrating, especially when you have a site that seems so, in my mind, pretty obvious that it's not an issue.
Right. And Frank, actually, I think you were part of this work group too, that the goal of a possible revision to the bylaw allows for like a true administrative where it's like $750, and if you don't hit all the items or whatever, if it's a really easy review, you're done and out. But those changes haven't been made yet, so that would be a town meeting item, I believe. Or maybe, actually, no, that would be the bylaw. If there's changes to the regulation, if it's a public hearing at the planning board level. But those final changes were never resolved, so it's still a work in progress.
On behalf of the applicant, we hear the concern of the Conservation Commission, and we're ready to move forward and fund $1,800 for a peer review if that's what the commission so desires. Where it is administratively issued, it's not issued by the commission, but it's issued by the agent. So you could move forward with the notice of intent tonight if you so choose, and we can pay the money for the review and move forward with the agent to issue that permit.
Actually, Frank, the way that we usually do it is we roll the stormwater permit into the orders.
Could we close, Amy?
No,
not-
you'll,
just
you
not-
should
not vote to issue.
continue pending stormwater review. And then we'll,
But this is where it gets frustrating, and it seems to frustrate the applicants and others that go forward. I mean, we have a fairly simple, straightforward project, and then they linger and continue to push out. And
it's frustrating, but if there's changes to the plans, then it would impact the orders of conditions. So, which you've got riverfront and buffer to BVW. So, I mean, I think as soon as it's funded, we're ready to go. So I would say, my notes say continue to January 10th, and hopefully Greg's plans are complete and the review can be done.
Do we already have a consultant for this, Amy?
Yes.
And they have the time to do it? Have they responded back?
Well, that was a week ago. I mean, things change, but yeah, I think we're ready to go. I guess I can reach out and make sure that the consultant can deliver. If not, I could go somewhere else, but that means the number could change. So, I
Right.
mean, it is the holidays. But I mean, I put this out for peer review request over a month ago. So,
Okay.
well, perhaps if we continue to that one, hopefully we can close and issue orders, something like that, something to move it along.
sounds good, Frank.
All right. So what do we have? We have a motion to close
No, we have to continue it.
or continue it rather, sorry.
January 10th.
Thanks, Doug.
I make a motion to continue.
Hey, she's back.
I'm back, 208 Chief Justice to January 10th, did you say?
Yes.
And hopefully, in the meantime, so what I'm waiting for still are calculations from the engineer, which would get that going, funding. And then also hopefully, Greg, you can give us planting details of trees that you want to propose.
I will
Commissions.
provide you with planting plans. I provided calculations on this last Monday. I emailed you and delivered hard copies on the 29th. I was surprised the commission didn't have those in front of them.
Yeah,
tonight.
I didn't have calculations, Greg. There's a narrative, but there weren't calculations.
Included in the narrative are the calculations.
What
as
I
outlined
forwarded
in my
to the
email you.
engineer, the response, it's just saving hopefully the client money, but they asked for calculations. So,
I will reach out to Merrill Associates to discuss.
Oh, Meryl's the consultant.
through the agent, please.
All right. Okay. So I have a motion from Penny, a second.
I'll second that.
Doug, all in favor, Richard
Yes.
and Jen
Yes.
and Andy.
Just before I vote, I know this dragged out. Do we need to check on anyone in the audience before we move ahead on this?
I thought we did earlier, but
I can't recall. I just wanted to make sure before we.
sure,
call,
thank you.
Andy.
Yeah. I thought we asked earlier, but anybody?
I don't think you asked for a butter comment.
Okay.
Do you see any?
I don't see any.
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
All right, then
Let's
I'm a
move
yes.
on.
Thanks, Andy. Brendan?
Yes.
Okay. Frank, yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we're going into RDAs.
Yep.
Yes.
So this is 644 First Parish Road. On December 6, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Elaine McDonough for termination of applicability of the Wetlands Protection Act and Situate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to a septic repair location at 644 First Parish Road, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. And who do we have?
Greg.
Greg Morse.
Hey, Greg.
Good evening. Greg Morse representing Elaine McDonough. This is a septic system RDA at 644 First Parish Road. As depicted on the plan here, the property is 65,000 square feet in size. Across the back of the property, highlighted in blue, is the limit of a bordering vegetated wetland, which was delineated by John Zimmer, a professional wetland scientist. Off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. Also completely off-site is an unnamed perennial stream or perennial river, with the 100-foot buffer in the 200-foot riverfront area highlighted in purple on the site. The existing home, 644, you'll see is located on the left-hand side of the page. Recently failed a Title V septic system inspection. The house is on the market. And as such, we're proposing to replace the septic system with a new Title V compliant septic system. The new system consists of a 1,500-gallon septic tank, which would be located up closer to the house, and then a new leaching chamber bed, which is located outside the 100-foot buffer zone, up closer to the frontage along First Parish Road. All of the work is outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer zone. We have appropriate erosion control barriers where work is proposed inside the 100-foot buffer, specifically around the septic tank and pipe between the septic tank and the leaching field. Title V makes a determination, or sorry, the wetlands regulations make a determination that septic system repair projects located entirely outside of the 50-foot buffer zone are deemed to be compliant with all of the interests of the Act. I would add that septic system repairs are exempt from the riverfront standards, although we're not proposing any work in the riverfront area anyways. I turn it over to you.
Amy, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, so buffer zone project, I did pull the files for previous orders for the property, and there was an in-ground pool on the back side of the house that looks like it was filled fairly recently, like within the last 10 years or more recently. But otherwise, it's a pretty well manicured property. That the resource areas, which are not identified on the plan of who did it, but they are consistent with flagging that Steve Ivis did back under the old orders too. But I would say for the septic repair, it would be applicable for a -3, but not agreeing to the resource areas as depicted. And Board of Health is ready to issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Brendan?
Yeah, I have no questions on this.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
I'm all set.
Jen?
All good.
Penny? Penny's drifted again. Doug?
I'm fine.
Richard?
All good.
Penny, are you back with us?
Yeah, I had it. I thought I was on. I don't know. I'm good.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? I'm sorry. This one didn't draw a crowd.
Doesn't look like it, Frank.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm good with this.
Okay, I make a motion for -3.
Penny, we have a
Second.
second. That's Doug.
Yeah.
Richard,
Good.
Jen.
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Kingsway.
62 Kingsway. On December 6, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Jamie O'Donnell for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaw for activity related to septic repair location at 62 Kingsway, Scituate. The butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And this is Greg.
Greg.
Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, representing the applicant, Jamie O'Donnell. If the plan is put up on the screen here, this is a septic system repair project located at 62 Kings Way. As you can see, Kings Way is the cul-de-sac at the bottom of the page. The existing home is centrally located on the lot. Off on the left-hand side, highlighted in blue, you have the limit of a bordering vegetated wetland, which was delineated by John Zimmer, a professional wetland scientist, on November 1st, 2021. Off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. The home is on the market and recently had a failed Title V septic inspection. What we're proposing to do is install a new Title V compliant septic system. The system consists of a 1,500-gallon septic tank, a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and then a pressure-dosed Presby leaching system. All of the work is located outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer, and erosion control barriers are proposed at the down gradient limit of work. Title V and the wetlands regulations make a presumption that septic system repairs outside the 50-foot buffer are presumed to protect all of the interests of the act. I turn it over to you for any questions or comments.
Thanks, Greg. Amy?
Same as the last one. I mean, yeah, this area is pretty wet for sure, but this will be a great improvement. It appears to meet the requirements of a -3, but we're not agreeing to the resource areas.
All right. Richard?
I'm good.
Penny?
Okay,
Doug?
It's a curious thing, Greg, that you put the tank and pump chamber down. And so you're gonna have to pipe down to that septic tank. I'm curious why the tank wasn't up at the house.
Sure. The reason is from the house, the pipe flows by gravity downhill to the septic tank. And so that location in the yard is lower in elevation, okay? There was no way to make the system, the leaching field, flow by gravity, so it had to be a pressure dosed system. And we
So
wanted
to make the
site-
pump chamber work, you have to put it down.
Yes, so it would back drain to prevent freezing in the winter.
Gotcha. That makes all the sense. See, I knew you had a really good reason.
No problem.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Jen?
Yep, I'm good.
Andy?
All set.
Brendan?
All set?
Did I get everybody?
Help yourself.
And we didn't have anybody in the audience for this, right?
No.
Okay, I'm good.
make a motion for -3.
Second,
I'll second.
that's Richard. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
57 Oceanside. On December 6th, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting at Town Hall, Central Conservation Commission will act on the request of Aaron Burns for determination of applicability of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate wetlands bylaws for activities related to extending a deck and footings at a dwelling at 57 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available, posted on the agenda, posted on the website.
Greg, Frank,
Yep.
so much Greg. Greg Morris. Okay, so it's not Greg Morris, it is Aaron. I'm gonna unmute Aaron. And also, I think I was dealing with contractor Reggie, but I don't see him on this call. Maybe I'm thinking about a different one, but so now I'm gonna ask to unmute Aaron.
Okay.
Yes, I am here. I don't believe Reggie is here, so I guess I'm representing myself as the applicant. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Basically, I've never done this before, so bear with me. I am just proposing expanding the existing deck that is on the house out 6 feet, relocating the stairs. And that's pretty much it, really. It will add 5 footings on the backside of the deck and 2 where the stair platform is going to be.
Okay. I want to just get some clarification. I'm looking at, there's a plot plan.
Mhm.
And that shows sort of a little highlined area in blue that says new deck. And
Yes.
then there's a sketch that says new sonotube footings with multiple circles. But I guess that's just a detail of one sonotube footing.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. That's like a cross section. And then there's like a little bit more elaborate plan that shows a deck with some stairs and slate, a couple of cars in it.
Mhm.
Um,
Is that the one on the screen
yes,
on the right? Okay, yep.
yeah. And that calls for, if I shrink that back, is there something about a concrete pad or something? Cement pad replaced with gravel. So you're removing something, or is this a different plan?
No, I think that might be a different plan. The only cement part of the deck was where where the original stairs were, like the landing, the bottom step. That's the only cement that was there. So I don't know what you're referring to. An old plan?
Maybe it was,
This is all fairly recent. This is a house that was redone that I just bought in August. So it could be something old.
maybe you've taken a previous plan and
Yeah.
added something over
We
it.
definitely used the previous plans, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So it's a deck with footings.
Sonotubes.
Sonotubes. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Jen,
Sorry, I was chewing some toast.
are you done? We don't want you to choke. I can go to somebody else.
Well, it is almost
No.
breakfast time here.
I know my thoughts exactly, Aaron.
This is a long meeting, my goodness.
Toast can be consumed all day long. I have no questions.
Okay. Andy?
No, I am good.
Okay. Penny?
Looks good.
Richard?
Yeah, I'm really okay.
Brendan?
I'm good, thank you.
Doug?
Well, just sort of following up on your clarification then, Frank, because the plan shows a new outdoor shower
Yeah, that,
Shower trash.
the
See, I
shower's
think-
already there.
And those are already there?
The shower's already there. We are enclosing the shower, like the shower head's already there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be clear on what well, this is an RDA, so we just vote that it doesn't.
So the
fall,
propane,
that
so
you
the
don't-
propane tanks are there, the trash barrel storage is there.
Yes,
And
that's
then,
all there. Yes.
okay, so the outdoor shower you're enclosing?
Yes, we're just gonna close it.
So maybe on the RDA, Amy, we just specify this for the deck only, and then we don't have any, that way there's no confusion about some of the other stuff that's on the plan. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Okay. And just of note, there's a stamp on the plan that says it's not final. That doesn't matter so much for the commission's perspective. But I'm just a word of caution, if you pull the building permit, actually, yeah. You'll have to get a building permit from building as well for that deck. You'll
Right.
probably have to get your surveyor to take that off of there,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because it says PL, I think that's property line, not final. So the building inspector's not gonna like seeing that note on there.
The building inspector is actually aware of all of this. And the
Gotcha.
permit is pending with him, and we sort of did this a little bit backwards, just so you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's common. So, okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it looks, Doug, to me like maybe there was a pretty extensive plan done a couple of years ago, and then this is just a simple
Yeah.
modification on top of it. But,
Exactly. Yes.
okay.
Not as fancy as the plans you were all looking at previously.
Well, if the building inspectors could, well, that I think we're fine with what you're doing there. Just your material and stuff that you excavate needs to be removed from the site, or
Okay.
that's about it.
Okay.
Anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, Frank.
Okay.
I'll make a
So
motion for a -3.
we have a second.
Second for
second.
Jen.
Oh, Jen got me.
Beat you
I'll-
to it.
Beat me. Yeah.
All right. All in favor, Richard
Yes.
and Doug
Yes.
and Andy
Yes.
and Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay,
A negative's good, Aaron.
Oh, thank you.
good.
Doesn't sound
Yeah.
good.
A positive, you'd be back to us. So a negative means that you're
Oh,
you're out the
You're all
door.
set to go.
okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a nice
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks. Okay.
Moving
Minutes,
on. Oh, we already did those before you came, Frank.
awesome. Hammerock, so enforcements, the Silverado Corporation work, Barrier Beach, no permit. Any of these you want to just speak to, Amy, or?
You know, at this point, my brain is fairly fried. I don't know about yours, but let's see. Yeah, so I mean, I listed out 7 different sites that are just on the greater list of enforcement sites, but I mean, like a few of these are recent, like the Silverado is a excavator working for a number of different properties on a weekend that sent over to us. So I mean, I guess I'm looking for a little bit of direction on what you want to do with these as far as that one goes. I don't have a definite address or owner, but I did talk to the owner of the company and he admitted to working without a permit. Shouldn't have done that. I was thinking maybe sending a fine and a letter, don't do that again. Let's see, tree cutting, no permit, 111 Old Oaken Bucket next to the bog. Still looking into that one. 7 Dunbar. I think we just, we hit that with Art Allen, so I've got direction on that. Now I put 16 Salt Meadow on this list, so this is another one that's like 7 Dunbar, in that we have a pending notice of intent for, actually on the Salt Meadow site, the guy wants to put up a garage for his boats. And it looks like he also overstepped authority given under a determination and filled area subject to jurisdiction. Received a plan today from John Zimmer. There's a pretty good group out there. Remember that one we went
Yeah,
to, with Norwell. It's right, Norwell town line cuts through the property. Anyways, Norwell has it on their enforcement list as well. So I believe that they're going to be looking for a restoration. So I'm thinking that basically we open the notice, but stay on the notice pending whatever planned restoration plan that they, can maybe take some of the fill out and probably relocate the proposed garage. There's not really any reason why it needs to be where he wants to put it.
he can put it close to the house, right, Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that'll be up for next time. Actually, that'll be on next meeting. And I haven't looked at the revised plan, but it was going to show the salt marsh. And so I'm not sure, I'm not sure where the buffers are and what we can allow and what we will want to see go. Next up is Toll Brothers, Seaside at Scituate. So as you know, we've been going back and forth with them over pretty major stormwater violations that they had with the June storms and work that they did to address those violations. But anyways, we are kind of down to trying to determine what an appropriate penalty amount is. Frank and I met with Karen and Bill Orenberger and the developers, representatives from the developers, and had some discussions. And the place actually looks like it's coming along pretty well. They're still over a year from being completely out of there, but they're definitely, I think 3/4 or more built out for the buildings. And I think all the infrastructure is largely in. Although they are using a number of basins still for stormwater management and control. Anyways, they want to come to you and ask for a reduction in bond tied to a replication of the wetland, which we are waiting for the monitoring report, actually your peer review report, to give an opinion on whether they think that what they've done there is taking or is adequately in compliance with the orders. So again, I think I see them maybe coming to the commission sometime in January and just, start thinking maybe if you want to weigh in, we could have a little discussion now about any comments or questions or where you're leaning on that site. And then just today I added back to the list 101 and Vinyl. Frank asked me to put it on. More fill probably in buffered BVW. So I'm going to put that in the same category as probably Dunbar and Salt Meadow, where to try to get these people to the table and stop the filling and restore. We may need to penalize that site also, I would say. And another one we get calls on occasionally is 18 Hatherley, which I think the sign above the garage door said Murphy on it and deck in the salt marsh. We'd very much like to see that taken out of the salt marsh. And clearly that went in without permits. And I'm sure you've got some that you're seeing that you drive by, you things start popping out of the woods this time of year. People are busy doing their COVID projects.
Yeah, right,
Well, you can see more. The leaves are down.
right. It's not ending. All right, will you let us know what you need from support from that? And I'd encourage you to work with Craig Keefe on some of these too, Amy. You know, certainly a couple
Oh
of
yeah, that's
people.
Sunoco's not even on that list.
Yeah, so we got a few. If
You
you
got
wonder what's,
151st Parish.
yeah, yeah,
She's put a permanent fence up now. Hip, hip, hooray.
Well, that one, I know, that one, we have a deadline for a notice of intent
Is when?
now passed. So, I mean, that one could be a letter
Yeah,
asking.
saying, get your hiney in gear. I feel she's just going to ignore us and do whatever she wants out there.
well, let's hope that we can change that.
I'd love to.
All right, well, it's 20 minutes to 9. So how about this request for minor modification?
Okay, so on this one, I'm going to,
We tabled it. I thought.
we received a modification to the modification in my inbox this morning, so I haven't figured out how it's changed again, and I'm thinking it's changed so much that they need to really, you know, walk us through what's changed, and then you can decide whether it's actually an amendment or it is a minor modification. But largely, I think they're repositioning the angle of the house. But anyways, I'm not ready for you to vote on that. And I think that Morse or the engineer needs to give a little bit better explanation of exactly what's changed from what approved.
Okay,
So that site has an existing house on it already, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So it's a raised rebuild. Well, first it was a repair to a septic. Then they came back as a raised rebuild, but it was a little bit, it's a kind of a complicated house. It had, you know, like a pool outbuilding, and then it had an in-ground pool. And then, but anyways, they gave notice.
Amy, you're muted.
Oh, I'm muted, sorry. Yeah, the work hadn't begun, even though I thought they were gonna start. They did some of the work. They filled the pool in and tore down the pool house, but the house still stands. Because I think that they maybe living in, if they've shifted their opinion on how they want their major, you know, the view of the house to be. So they're turning the house a little bit. But anyways, we'll get some more information before we have a thorough discussion about that.
okay. Anybody else with anything?
We go home.
I think you're there.
Oh, yeah.
We-
I guess,
The collective, we at Town Hall would like to go home.
Yes. Jen, did you want to say something?
yeah, I don't necessarily have like a really big update on it, but at least last week there was some good feedback from the North-South River Watershed Association on the Driftway Park.
Oh, yeah.
So good feedback there. They've apparently already had a bunch of people sign up for their event, which is great.
That's
I
awesome.
haven't been down to walk the park in the last week and a half or so, but it's on my list for this weekend.
Maybe you can join me with the Boy Scout that wants to do his exercise thing, because I just got an email from him. So
Yeah.
we'll touch base.
Yep.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Penny, make a motion to close, will you?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Here we
Anybody else gonna
go.
watch the Patriots tonight? Or at least
Uh,
the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's probably going on right now.
Well, I got a motion,
Yes.
but nobody wants to get off.
Second.
the
Second,
Second.
meeting. I got a lot
Amy
of seconds.
distracted us.
All in favor?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, yes,
And I'm gonna take that as a unanimous vote.
Yes.
yes.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Right.